panel will discuss the key challenges like retaining and motivating the workforce. One topic is around patient experience. Then how do you build and maintain the hospital brand? Then we have overview of Vadhvani for the opportunity skilling and training program, which is completely free of cost, and it has a learning management system which is on offer for the hospitals. Panel details, we are very, very excited to have Commander Navneet Bali, who will be moderating today's session. So Commander Bali needs no introduction. He has completed his master's in finance from NIFM and BSc from JNU. He has also done his financial administrative management course from the Navy and special course on strategic financial management, inventory control, and working capital management from Edinburgh Business School, Scotland. Prior to joining Narayana Health, he was associated with IOSPL as Group CEO and Head of Business. He also worked with Rockland Hospitals as Unit Director. Before venturing into healthcare industry, he served the Indian Navy for almost 30 years. In his current role at Narayana Health, he is responsible for overall strategic planning, operations management, service excellence, and business development of the Northern region. He is also co-chair at ASSOCHAM Healthcare Council. So we welcome you, sir. We also have Sonali Gogia, who is co-founder and lead experience strategist at Bold Experience Design Studio. She is an international service designer and customer service expert that has empowered organizations to deliver great customer experience for the last 20 years. Sonali has a business degree from Tulane University, US, a master's degree in service design from Italy, and several behavioral training and adult learning certifications. She has worked as a strategy consulting at UC Strategy, sales trainer and retail and education manager for the L'Oreal luxury brand, as well as a service designer in Europe for Logotel, which is a cutting-edge service design and innovative agency. We welcome you, Sonali.
Great, happy to be here.
We also have Arundhati Mukherjee. She is a marketing leader, having recently worked with extensively with the SMEs for the last 4 years to enable them to compete with the largest players in the global market. She has earlier worked as a global group leader marketing, TCS, Director Marketing, Accenture, and Group Head of Marketing, CK Birla Group for close to 22 years. She has advised chairmen, board, CEOs, and MDs on go-to-market strategy and approach, brand development, positioning, and brand building. This includes defining the approach towards media, digital, traditional, both visibility, awareness, and crisis management. She is an expert in long-term brand building and sales enablement, which enable an impactful presence in the ecosystem for the small and medium enterprises as well as hospitals. We welcome you. We also have Mr. Sunil Daya. He is EVP Vadhvani Opportunity Vadhvani Foundation. He is a veteran in space of vocational education, driving both the demand as well as supply sides of solutions for skilling. His 3 decades of rich experience includes working with industry verticals like IT, ITES, BFSI, healthcare, and retail on the demand side, and working with academia and training institutions on the supply side. Creating new technology-based solutions for scale, driving the learning and development for closely working with industry and students. Sunil currently leads the skilling vertical globally for Vadhvani Foundation. We welcome you, sir. We also have Mr. Samir Sathe. Samir is EVP Vadhvani Advantage at Vadhvani Foundation. He leads the Advantage program and provides global mentorship to the Advantage program. He has 28 years of experience in India, Asia, Middle East, Hong Kong, Singapore, UK and US in doing change management. He is a master in change from INSEAD, France. Samir has attended leading professional service firms at Harvard Business School and Challenges of Global Poverty at MIT. Samir is an author, speaker, disruptive thought leader, and practitioner of management science. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
So, now I'll hand it over to Commander Bali to kick off the panel discussion. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. And my gratitude towards Vadhvani Foundation and all the other sponsors for this cracker of a session today. I was just talking before the session began that I've never had such a wonderful, amazing, panel where I see individuals at the top of their professional acumen and from very, very different backgrounds than the usual healthcare webinars that I've been sort of some of them I've been participating, some of them I've moderated. So I'm so excited today to be there with all of you, and I'm sure the learning from this panel discussion is going to be immense to all those who are attending today. And since this is being recorded, I think it can be shared later on with many other CEOs and of healthcare industries and the senior leadership. I think there'll be great amount of learnings. So the topic today is, I think, very interesting. It's actually a three-part topic where we are talking about retaining and motivating the workforce, the patient experience and marketing of a hospital brand. I think all of us are aware the life has undergone a complete shift. I used to write some articles on LinkedIn where I wanted some thoughts on whether pandemic was that one event which will really change our lives for good, or it is one of those events which will come and pass us by, and then the life is going to be back again to normal again. The humanity has faced many pandemics in the past, and they have been learning. Some of them we don't seem to learn, but as many of us are aware, I don't think humanity can ever be ready for a pandemic. We have gone through this over and over again, and so this question comes into your mind, that is this pandemic also similar, or that another 1 year, 2 years, when pandemic turns into endemic, that is the way pandemics behave. Will the world go back to normal, or it won't go back to normal? So these very simple questions like monitoring, motivating workforce, retaining workforce, talking about experiences, talking about marketing, this has really undergone some kind of a great shift in almost all the topics that we're discussing, or many of them still retain the foundations of what we have been learning in the books and through our experiences. So today's discussion will revolve around something that remains the same and some things that have changed in last sort of 1.5 years, and how the world is today. How do you see hospital and healthcare panning out into the future? And that's what I think we will talk around. And I think I'm very happy to hear one word which Pratyush just talked about, the Wadhwani Foundation helping pro bono many institutions to do so many things. I think that's a fantastic initiative by Wadhwani Foundation, and go a long way to make our healthcare more robust in the future. So thank you very much to all the esteemed panelists, and I will keep the discussion more interactive, and of course in the end there is a question answer session with the audiences, but also I will move back and forth between all of us, so that's a very sort of an interesting discussion. So I'll jump straight to Sonali, to you. So I was just going through your LinkedIn profile, and it said that you're an experienced designer. Wow. So you design experiences, Sonali. So hospitals are places, as we all know, where we go by force. Even I was interviewing some people for patient care services, some heads, and I asked them, some of them were working in 5-star hotels. So I said that from a 5-star hotel into a hospital, when you come, and there the atmosphere is totally different. You have beautiful music going on, lovely perfume, people walking in lovely dresses, and here you come where people are coming by force. So tell me one thing at the outset, Sonali. Experience designing, when you talk about, is it same when it's hospitals, hotels, other places, or you see that the fundamentals remain the same, or you see that there is a lot of difference between how you want to tackle the patient and the attendant experience in a hospital?
Such an interesting question, because while the principles of any kind of human-centered design are universal, definitely the hospital poses a unique set of challenges. You see, usually experience design, even for me professionally, has been in very, I would say, customer-centric businesses. Like it starts with retail and that kind of environment. So today, healthcare has evolved, right? And people want to differentiate themselves. People want to stand out, or even healthcare institutes, hospitals. One is getting that competitive edge. For being someone where patients want to come back, patients have a memorable experience, patients talk about you and say, oh, the service was so amazing. So one is, of course, today things are competitive in the healthcare. But more than that, why is the hospitals like experience design unique? One is because, unfortunately, because of the nature of the work, there are many strict protocols in place. So when we find something is very processed and the need for precision, and so even the staff's focus goes on functionality, right? And an experience usually we say has different dimensions. There's a human feeling dimension, there's that functional technical, and then there's of course like a sensorial, like, am I feeling cold, am I hot, how does it smell? But why does it, when it comes to a hospital, we tend to just focus on the functional? And actually everybody has emotions. Experience design is not only patient-centric. The staff that are serving, their emotions are as important. So anxiety, depression, fear. So your patients are there and they are experiencing these things. The question is, we know all this is happening. Experience design helps the team to acknowledge it. So yes, to kind of summarize that, the main challenge is that the service providers in a hospital don't have the mindset to be patient-centric. They want to get the job done. And that's not their fault because they have a high-stake job, right? It's not about like closing the sale. So we really need to involve them. And that's why that co-creation and building empathy and understanding and changing mindset is very critical.
Sonali, just a follow-up question to what you're saying. So have you seen a sort of awareness towards creating a better experience for the patients, staff, and the attendants in the hospital over a period of many, many years that you've been in? And what has that change been?
Yeah. So, see, there's definitely changes happening at different levels. That you see with the newer hospitals and everything. So it's not that they are not, it's the mindset is not there. So what I would say is that there is a little more finesse and care coming in terms of the seamlessness of the experience. Okay, so you may have, for example, a one-point contact, someone helping you. And so those are things, I would say, that first level, like, can we help the patient remove those bottlenecks that come, right? So queues, waiting line, using technology, maybe where like pandemic, using digital virtual consultations for non-essential things. So like suddenly technology has come into the realm. Technology can actually empower a patient even if there wasn't a pandemic, right? So definitely there have been changes in the last year, but we think that if you look at like international benchmarks, there's a long way to go in terms of removing problems and bottlenecks and enhancing the experience. Like, can I enjoy being in the waiting room? That is can I feel engaged in the waiting room? Or, am I going to be bored out of my mind reading old magazines in the waiting room? And do I have to keep following up and asking someone, or is someone going to proactively tell me what's going to happen next to me? So I'm just a very small thing. Like, waiting room is like the most, I think, the easiest example. In involved situations, hospitals are giving patients more control of the experience. What do you want to do? How do you want to engage? Do you want like, there's an app and we can page you when your appointment comes. Be free, don't be captive. So I'm just saying that it's a very complex experience in the hospital, right? Because there's different scenarios, different cases, no cases the same, and there are many departments. So definitely it's one of the most complex experiences to design. But at the same time, I would say that there's a different evolution of improving the experience. And I would say in India, it's definitely in the beginning.
So, Samir, earlier, the hospital used to be a place where you just went, got the treatment done and came out. And you would go into by lanes and lanes to meet a doctor who would be sitting in. There'll be 200, 300 patients in his OPD. Will be small nursing homes. You will choose and go there because the doctor was good. But I think we have come a long way from there. And what Sonali was talking about, that we are at the beginning of that evolution in patient care. So what is your opinion as far as the experience is concerned, and is it so important, the patient experience and the attendant experience?
Yeah, I would say definitely. Just a second and build on what Sonali mentioned. I look at it from two ways. One is the patient experiences based on the clinical outcomes, based on either the condition or the disease that the patient is going through, and which is why there is a need to visit the hospital. And on the other hand, there is this whole aspect about non-clinical experience, which is about ensuring that the convenience matters, ensuring about that everything surrounding the whole clinical experience is as good, if not better, than the clinical experience. So in fact, if you look at the last 5 years and 10 years, there has been 2-3 things which have happened. One is really the relationship between the doctor and a patient has changed. Doctor is an expert by definition. What he or she knows, the patient doesn't. So the doctor was considered as a god. But now, increasingly, the patient status has been elevated to that of a customer. And we all know that when we think about customer and a supplier, the relationship is very different between a doctor and a patient. And that's a very big paradigm shift. The patient today feels as if she is a customer, right? And that's a big change. And therefore, if that nature of relationship changes between a doctor and a patient to that of a customer and a supplier, even if the supplier is an expert supplier, suddenly things change. So therefore, what has happened is that the customers, and in quotes, patients, have started demanding more. They have realized that they are the customers. There has to be centricity around them, not only around their diseases and conditions and the treatment pathways and the diagnosis, etc., but also about how they visit the hospitals, who contacts them, when they visit the hospitals and when they are at home, away from the hospitals, how that entire experience matters. Even when they travel, how is that experience to the hospital from either the area that they are living in? And all these things matter. And today I will focus a lot on, if you look at what's happening in artificial intelligence, these technologies are bringing a rapid and transformative change in the way the experience is delivered, right? So tomorrow, if you look at the top 3 incidences in terms of the patient experience, the radiologists, for example, there is a big application of AI. Some of the cancer incidences like cervical cancer, there is big application of AI. Now that will improve the clinical outcomes because there are fewer errors in terms of the doctor's sort of prognosis. There are basically better treatment pathways. One can predict what could happen in terms of the patients at risk versus the patients who are actually impacted by the disease. Now, those are all adding to the patient experience on clinical outcomes. But when it comes to non-clinical outcomes and non-clinical sort of experiences, there are predictive models to look at, like Sonali mentioned, the wait times. There are predictive models to look at the patient flow. There are predictive models to look at even in a city, if you want to visit a trauma center and somebody has an emergency situation, should that person visit hospital A versus B based on the resource utilization of the hospital? So there is tremendous change happening. And if these kinds of things happen in reality, and they're already happening internationally, not as much in India, you can imagine that tomorrow's hospital and the way you visualize the hospital is going to be a completely different experience, should be. Because I think, like you mentioned at the start, a hospital is when you have a necessity to visit, right? And that's why one is not in the right frame of mind because one is sort of down with the disease or the condition. But tomorrow, I think that whole experience needs to and ought to change significantly based on all these changes which are happening. So I feel that India is just at the starting of the revolution. I mean, basically, I would say they're just 1% of where the massive potential lies. And that's where I would probably, in the interest of time, we can talk a lot. But I think I feel that India is just at the start of the overall revolution.
Yeah, absolutely right. We'll come back to you, Sonali, and Samir will discuss a little bit more, time permitting. I'll go to Sunil now. Sunil, you are a master of, I think, as far as these beautiful topics of retention of employees, motivating them, keeping them engaged in a company, and I think these are very, very pertinent topics now in healthcare specifically. So I will first go on the motivation part, because as we discuss pandemic, it was an existential crisis for an individual. And the healthcare workers were at the forefront, and they were at the forefront of something that they had never ever experienced before. The soldiers do it every day from their training till when they go on an operation. But for healthcare workers, except for maybe when we had H1N1, little bit of that, HIV, we took the protective thing, but it was never at the scale at which it's happened. So tell me one thing: what do you think is the prime motivator? And what is it that you feel the hospitals should be doing to motivate their staff, especially during the midst of this pandemic, and also in an ever-encompassing, sort of a paradigm of this, motivation as far as hospitals are concerned?
I would, start with maybe taking a step back. Let's say who joins the healthcare domain. So, and why does a student or a learner join the healthcare domain? And actually, the things are excellent to some part, but things are very bad at that start point itself. So, and actually that has got a direct impact on motivation at the workplace and retention and progression at the workplace. So that's where, so starting from, who is the right talent to be acquired, and then training the talent, and then ensuring that the retention happens and the progression happens. And then obviously the excitement of career growth path and all that starts. But I'll just share a few examples and some of the these were real learnings at the time of COVID and pandemic time. So let me first give you an example more from the standpoint of when it comes to healthcare, most of the domain training happens to be general duty assistant, nursing care, home nursing aide. Now these are the job roles students are prepared for. Now, irrespective of who should get into it, student get into it just because there's a batch and the batch is starting, we need to get into it. Now the person doesn't now on a empathy rate, if the person's rating is less than, let's say, 5, ideally the person should not get into this domain, because ultimately you're going to be dealing with either senior citizens or maybe very young kids. So empathy becomes such a big, I'll give you a very interesting example. While almost the entire fraternity says about, let's say, your body weight should be more than 45 to 49 kgs to get into healthcare. But we see students getting into it, and then one fine day they watch, okay, let me give both the sides. So the problem and the solution. One fine day they are in the hospital assisting a nurse, and now they're standing with their back towards the wall, and now they're just watching nurse, and now they realize, oh my God, what a wrong place I've come into. This was not something I was meant for. And now this applies even in retail, for that matter. People do not want to stand for 8 hours a day, but they need to be doing customer handling, and then they realize it later, oh sorry, I'm in the wrong place. So actually it starts from there. And there's something which I just thought from the pandemic side, I wanted to take this example. While Sonali, Samir, yourself, we all spoke about the better hospitals and the customer experience at the hospitals. We had a very good and I think I would like to share this. This was with Asha Anganwadi workers all across the states during the pandemic. What was required was how do we educate them so that they educate the families in the block about the whole pandemic. So in fact, when we worked on this part, we realized that there was a big drive which we did with WHO and ourselves, getting onto Sahayata kind of campaign during the pandemic. And the interesting part is now. So after the pandemic slowly went down, so be it hospitals or even the organizations like Anganwadi and Asha, they now are getting back to us on, please train us on soft skills, how to talk. When a patient comes, I go to a house and I say, I talk to a lactating mother or maybe a newborn, pregnant woman, their interaction with them. So what happens is now we are actively working with state governments as well as, some, let's say, good brands in terms of, whether it's Hamdard, Apollo, various things, in where we are now trying to work with them on what we were talking about, the empathy and, the customer handling, so-called customer handling, what words to be used, what not to be used, what is that first reaction when you meet a family member of a patient, what you should do, and then something very interesting happened. We started sharing with the students a day in life of a general duty assistant. So we truly recorded, or a pharmacy person or a diagnostic person. So we showed them a day in life of, it's a video. So video shows how will your day begin, what will you do during the day, and how will you close the day. Now that gave us, we saw some aspect where, some of the students, sorry to say, they said, no, we don't want to be in healthcare and this is not the right place for us. I think we are meant for something else. Or some retail guys moving into this side saying, no, we need to be in this part. I don't think we are at the wrong place. So actually, Commander Navneet, from your question standpoint, it starts right there. But now let me come to the more specific question, which was to do with motivation and retention at the workplace. So actually speaking, this starts from there, and then somewhere the role from an employee who is yet to join or who has joined is the experiences on the ground. Of course, that plays a very big role, and where most of the time it is the supervisors, the person's inability to handle the pressure from the first level supervisor. There are studies which indicated that, but the more bigger problem is the growth path at certain points, and then the knowledge of growth path. It's not just the growth path, because it's always the knowledge of the growth path. So, for example, a GDA would think I'll be a floor supervisor, and maybe it'll never happen in 10 years also. Some of them would feel, no, I will be a floor supervisor soon. Or maybe a X-ray technician going into a biomedical, kind of, or let's say a different equipment. For him or her, it's that is one piece, because unfortunately, from the industry standpoint, it is you can do horizontal jumps, but maybe verticals have to be educated more in this ecosystem. I'm coming absolutely from a training and from the demand and the supply side. So now, of course, there are there are some good practices happening all around, and there are some nice case studies which we can talk about. But yes, that's where it is. But yes, from the motivational, we call it retention and progression. Most of the skilling domain students, nearly 40% of them, would leave the job within 3 to 5 months after they join. And that's a huge problem in entire skilling sector, and also there in the healthcare sector. That's one piece. And the other part is the progression of this individual. So by what time they can think that, yes, I can see my career for next 4 years or next 5 years. And is it, is it the domain we need to hop, or is it the hospital I need to hop? Or maybe, of course, there are various other sides, whether it is diagnostics, whether it's pharmacy or custom, right at the hospital. There are various, within subdivisions within the healthcare segment. But actually, one aspect of mentorship after they join the job, whether provided by the employer or provided by organizations who can coach them, in terms of, or guide them in how to cope up with this initial pressures, that can really take us to a different level in terms of motivation and retention.
Thank you. I think, Sunil, as the topic will progress, I think we'll discuss more about retention, which I'll come back to you later. So, Samir, coming to you, Sunil touched upon a very important topic about training, and some of the training of the nurses and the young doctors happens, and even on the job, when they are by the bedside, they're in the OT, they're in the lab, etc. But do you think there is some more training very much required, or some other training which can really help in motivating the workforce? Is it also sort of proportional to the way healthcare workers are trained to motivate them and keep them in the hospitals?
The short answer is no, it's not proportional. I think right now, if I really assess the situation, there is a massive demand and need for a very focused training agenda for all these different roles which are played in the hospital. Right now, if I really look at it, if you take an example of whether it is OPD, whether it is any specialty, take an example of a trauma center in the hospital. And if you ask a simple question, how many of them are really trained after their medical education and when they come to the hospital? It's just about training them on the protocols. It's just about training them on the processes. It's just about training them on do's and don'ts. But what will make their jobs effective, what will make their metric be achieved, I think if you ask them, they will draw blank on their faces. I think that tells you a story that there is a lot that needs to be done in terms of training them specifically on the job roles, not only on technical aspect, but also all the areas that surround their technical aspects of their job roles, which will make their jobs effective. And I think the other point that I recognize is that a lot of these job roles today, they see it in silos. They do not see how an integrated manner they could come together and impact on patients. Doctor will look at doctor's job, paramedical will look at paramedical job, admin guy will look at admin job, procurement guy will procure. It's all very siloed. Now they do not realize the big picture, how their jobs come together to impact the patient experience. So that centricity is extremely critical, and in that training, if you ask me, is completely lacking. For all practical purposes, that needs to be done for sure. There are better hospitals who are better trained. They're thinking a little bit better. But if you ask me to generalize, I would say we are nowhere there. We need to really achieve that.
Yeah, so that's a pointer I think we'll discuss with the audience also about this. I think both of you connected patient experience of Sonali. It's somehow connected with the experience thing that we talked about before. Arundhati, moving to you now, marketing a hospital brand or marketing a doctor or marketing a healthcare product. I mean, it somehow seems like a, irony that you're going to the public and to tell them about something that, talks about disease and cure and, invites people to come to the hospitals, etc., etc. So it's a very, very, a very fine line that we in healthcare tread, that what kind of marketing should we market or not market, what should be marketed, etc. And since you have been into this field and as you are a CMO on demand, and you've also been, involved with the healthcare brand before. Tell me about marketing as a bigger, space as far as the hospital and healthcare operations are concerned, as far as going to public are concerned. How much importance should be given, and what is the way it should be done as per you?
We need to get a few things, a small thing clear. Everything needs marketing. Everything, it's not enough to have a service. You need to let people know that you have a service for them to come. Hospitals are only increasing in number, good, bad, ugly. I'm not getting into that. But hospitals are definitely mushrooming, and every hospital needs to differentiate itself and let people know that they're differentiated. So does healthcare need marketing? Yes, it does. Like any other offering does. If you want to bring an offering to the market, you just simply need to let people know that you are in the business, and if you need any help, I'm there. So that way it is. Yes. That said, hospital marketing is not easy. You don't want to go and sell it like a brand of soap or any kind of simple service, because it will be taken negatively, that they do only marketing, they spend all the money that they take from us, it doesn't actually go to the doctor or go for the equipment, but goes into their advertising and their marketing activity. So there's a lot of negativity, and of course there are some rules and regulations also. Even today, after the pandemic, while it's not written in black and white, there are a lot of restrictions in terms of how we can market a medical service or medical related service in any way. There's a lot of restrictions there. That said, it also has a lot of innovation. Medicine and related fields has seen a lot of innovation in marketing. A lot of organizations, hospitals have been very innovative in the way they market. Treading the fine line between being out there, being brash about it, and being seen as a serious offering which you come to when you are in distress. You can trust when you are in trouble. You can trust my brand. My brand is there to help people in distress. How do you showcase that rather than be that brash hospital which just goes on advertising left, right, and center? So it's a fine line. It's tough, but it is doable. There are many hospitals who are doing it and coming across as a very responsible organization. I would like to talk to the audience with some very actionable things, so that we all go away from here with some actionable things. So some of the ways that hospitals can be marketed is by showcasing the work that they have done, the patients that they have been able to cure. Technology is a big part of brand, and when your patients come in, how do you use technology to give them a smoother experience when they have to make them stand in the queue? How do you make them give them a better experience? How do you ensure that they are called in a manner that they are not waiting in the waiting room for hours together, but they have an appointment, they go in at the right time? Doctors will always have emergencies. You can't say that a doctor is an OPD and he has an inpatient who is in the ICU, and he drops everything at the OPD and walks out to the ICU, and you are left with an appointment. You can't claim that, I have an appointment, why can't I see the doctor right now? He has gone to the ICU to see a critical patient. So those kind of waits will always be there. How can you use technology to make these experiences a bit better? And that adds to the brand. Overall, that adds to the brand, that you have a smooth experience when you are in distress. So you can wait for an hour when you are comfortable. You can look into your phone. But when you have you have a report that you want to show to the doctor, and you wonder whether you are having X disease or Y disease or something like that, and the doctor is not there, how can you still make the patient comfortable and ensure that there's no the anxiety is not increasing? And these are small little things that become a part of the brand. So we need to take care of these small experiences, like Sonali was talking about, and these add up to the brand. People go and talk about your brand. We need word of mouth. Word of mouth is a very important thing in hospitals for forever. It's been years and years. Word of mouth is the best. Is the best way of building a hospital brand. But what is word of mouth has changed in the last 5 to 7 years. Word of mouth earlier was me telling my friend that I had a great experience treating so and so something in my family, and the friend says, oh, my family also has the same problem, so let me go to this doctor. So earlier it was like that, but today it is more of Practo, more of Google reviews, more of so focus on them, do not neglect them. I have seen many large hospitals having a great focus on these areas, from a digital marketing perspective, or online pay, presence perspective. But SMEs specifically have not focused on that. When you go out and look at hospitals which are doing really good work on the ground with patients, with equipment in their, with very modern equipment in their hospitals, we see 4 reviews, 5 reviews, which only means that it's not that they don't have happy patients, it's that they're not focused on capturing the feedback of the happy patients. And that is something that I think hospitals need to do. And these are the things that will enable you to build a brand within those restrictions that we have by marketing a hospital brand.
Thank you so much, Arundhati. Sameer, just quick word on this. Arundhati said that hospitals require marketing. She also said that hospitals marketing cannot be like selling a soap. So tell me, the marketing for hospitals and healthcare providers should be for awareness, or it is a revenue accretive process? Because many of them may not have an ROI exactly determinable, quantifiable.
The real world where it is changing right now, Commander, is that there is going to be both sides of the coin, like in any other marketing. Arundhati, you would probably agree with me, is that there's this whole brand building aspect and there is whole lead gen aspect, as we popularly call it. And in this context, both are true, because what we see is the effective marketing sort of mechanisms that hospitals are following are in terms of the doctors. It's all about the credentials of the doctor, credentials of the experience that the patient has had, and how that translates into building a brand, and how that translates into building a lead, a new patient that coming into the hospital for that. So, all the concepts that we typically apply in non-healthcare industries are perfectly valid. I think the only difference here is that because even hospitals have ROIs, hospitals have metrics in terms of increasing revenue per bed. They have metrics, doctors have metrics when they want to make sure that they earn revenue for the hospitals. All this is very true, right? And therefore, it sort of conceptually is the same and akin to what we feel in other industries, except that in this healthcare, you had obviously medical and there are ethical boundaries that are stringent, and one has to really follow them. And one has to be really within the sort of confines of what exactly can be delivered as an experience, as opposed to creating anticipatory experience. So that's the only difference. But otherwise, I think we are in the right direction.
I will go over Sonali and one question for all three of you. I want some actionable and some takeaways for the audience now. Sonali, coming from you first, and then I'll go to Sunil and Arundhati. So tell me, Sonali, how do you create a good patient or attendant or staff experience in a hospital? And do you require professional help? Should hospitals be taking that? Or what are those few tips that, there is, as you said, the audience has so many of, healthcare professionals.
So firstly, listening to the experts on this panel, patient experience design is horizontal. I would need Sameer, Arundhati and Sunil. Okay, so you need multiple, I would say, expertise, but you need an experienced designer, someone who has a human-centered lens to tie it all together. So firstly, you do need someone with a design thinking background. Okay, you need co-creation, where Sameer was talking about the silo. So you need cross-functional teams, workshops, you need to involve stakeholders. So that human-centered method, which is continuously finding pain points, improving pain points, prototyping, testing, iterative design, because your hospital patient experience is not a one-time effort. It is a process that needs to be institutionalized. You need an experienced designer part-time. If you're a small hospital, you can get external consultant who can come in, but then again, you need them to come frequently to set up the process of design. And then you're going to evolve forever. So that's my short answer.
Sunil, coming to you, I'm going to put you against the wall. How do you retain doctors or good nurses or good staff? Is it money? Is it brand? What is it? And what is your advice to so many people who are listening here? If we want to retain good staff in a hospital or healthcare system, what are your finer points for that, for retention?
See, the way we look at it at that part, which is at the doctor level, it is the way we have seen it from outside is, all the brands where, they took a shape of a mission, and they took a shape of that we need to do something about the whole ecosystem, we need to do. So we have seen, I'm not answering this from the patient standpoint, but more from the, how do they build their, build their brand. I think somewhere, what Arundhati was talking about, that portion really evolves and ties up the doctor as well as the senior fraternity to that mission. So from that standpoint, from the retention standpoint, there are many things, which will be at the, the medium and the lower level. But from the doctor standpoint, you look at it, whether it is technology, which is adding various aspects of their expertise being used. Telemedicine it's a revolution, the way it is picked up. Their contributions in different forums, their contributions in a larger ecosystem in terms of the whole, healthcare ecosystem build up. And how do we take that to the next level? I think that motivates to me from an outside in, for the doctors to stay and contribute to the larger economy.
All right, thank you. Arundhati, coming to you now. So tell me, what is happening in marketing in healthcare, domain? What are the, changes that are happening? Is it going the digital way? Is it going to be a combination of radio, paper, print, word of mouth, and digital? And what do you think that hospitals should focus on if they have to do effective marketing, both of their brand and their technology and their doctors?
That's a many-layered question. So I'll answer it one by one. So there are two things that are extremely critical. One is doctor brand versus the hospital brand, right? It's always a struggle. It's been a struggle forever. However, if you ask me to give, two quick takeaways, how do you manage that? Very simple. May sound simple, but hospitals have not, very few hospitals have got it absolutely right, is to, give hospital brand a lot of prominence. However, give some prominence to the doctors and maybe, group a few doctors together so that the branding gets distributed. So these are, just small things that can help you, because you need the doctors. You need the patients to say that, have confidence that your hospital has good doctors. You cannot get away from that. But build it under the umbrella of great brands. You will see something similar on the TVs. That moderators or the people are more famous than the channel, and the channel then tries to control. So it's a tussle, and the hospital will go through the same thing. But focus on the hospital brand. Always remember who you are and what you need to promote, and then do a lot of small things around it. So mix it up with your technology, mix it up with the doctor presence that you have, mix it up with the experiences that patients have had in your hospital. So that is one thing that you need to do: build the hospital brand through multiple things, including the doctor brand. Don't focus only on the doctor brand and then have a scenario where the doctor brand becomes larger. The second is crisis management. You will have, if you are a hospital, you will have unfortunate events happening there. So you cannot get away from that, however you want. You will have people coming at the fag end of their treatment and having no hopes. These are things that you cannot avoid in a hospital. How do you deal with it? I have seen that hospitals, especially smaller hospitals, go into a shell. And actually, I would suggest that you do the opposite. Sometimes you kill news by over-communicating. Have you heard that? Sometimes that you kill news by over-communicating. You give so much of information that there's nothing secret. Newspapers and they love to say as according to sources, according to some senior members. When you give the entire community of journalists, have a set of journalists that you are talking to, and do not let them know that you are talking to all of them. Flood them with information. There's nothing more to write about it then. So crisis communication is extremely important. Otherwise you will have such situations. Smaller hospitals also have such situations. Larger hospitals have such situations, but I have seen that larger hospitals are all over the place when there's a high profile challenge in the hospital, whereas the smaller hospitals go into a shell and don't communicate. You should stand out there and have one person who will be out there and communicating with the media, with the press. Have some friends, maintain those relationships, and when the time comes, flood them with information, and you will kill them. The best way to kill news is to over communicate. So that's it. Technology plays an important part. Focus on your technology. Let people have a good experience and do the digital marketing. Some small tips that have been very effective in our work with the hospitals. Having something around the billing counter, getting people to give their feedback. This is extremely important. Do that, and then use digital marketing to promote the experience rather than saying that we have very great service, we have very good technology. No, don't do that. Market the experience and market it well. The digital marketing is today a labor intensive exercise. Earlier marketing was a capital intensive exercise, so small hospitals and smaller organizations could not fight. However, India is a country of surplus labor, and digital marketing fits in very well. Just like IT fitted in very well, digital marketing fits in very well into labor-intensive community that we have, or a labor force that we have, and therefore hire some professionals. It's not as easy as posting a video or posting a news. I have seen digital marketing being reduced to today I put the photos of my vacation, tomorrow I put the information about my hospital. It's not the same thing. Treat it differently. Hire professionals to handle your digital marketing, increase engagement, increase word of mouth, have a presence across platforms, because digital marketing is platform agnostic. And given that you have heard about guerrilla warfare, how Vietnam defeated US. This is the same, David versus Goliath. You can defeat the big ones, the ones with huge dollars to spend. You as SMEs, if you do careful digital marketing, if you do proper digital marketing, you will take patients away from very large hospitals. So SMEs have got huge amount. I believe in the power of marketing for SMEs because it's no longer the big bucks like it was 15 years back.
Thank you so much. I think I've packed in as much as I could in the last 40 minutes or so, and I'll throw open this one for the audience. I don't know whether they are able to switch on their mics and ask Pratyush. Anyone wants to? They can do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so any questions you can ask directly to the panelist, or you could ask to me. Anyone wants to ask anyone any question? We've got 5 minutes more in this. So please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Dr. Bhupendra Yadav. I work with a medtech company in the robotic surgery space, and phenomenal discussion. I think there was a lot to learn from all different aspects. My question is around how do you communicate or create awareness among patients about niche technologies for a hospital perspective, which are message is difficult to communicate and it's not a common knowledge.
Arundhati, if you can take on this.
Like I said, the best communication is to have a few patients record their experience, and I like to simplify things. And here is my simple answer to your question. Record some of these experiences using this technology. Showcase, have the doctor talk about how it has made a difference in recovering, in the recovery of the bringing back the patient from wherever he was. So you combine the patient feedback, the patient relatives feedback, and the doctor feedback, and talk about the technology. Do not talk about the technology directly. That will make you look like a soap brand. Do not talk about it like that. But use third parties to talk about those technologies and how it has benefited them, and then promote it. That can be promoted, right? But if I, as a head of the hospital, say that, look, I have this technology and that technology, and this technology does this and that technology does that, and you can't promote that, right? So use third party and get some videos shot. Videos work very well because you're capturing the emotions of the people, and then that can be promoted.
Please unmute here.
I don't have a question. Actually, I have an experience to share. Basically, I have a lot to take away from this discussion. It was really amazing to listen to all of you. And what I wish to say is that mainly on the motivation part, if we have to really motivate our staff, the hospital staff, from the guard from where we enter the hospital till a nursing orderly or a sweeper or any employee, the branding automatically happens from that very end. The branding, a hospital doesn't need to spend lakhs and lakhs on branding outside, because as Arundhati said, it should be the testimonies of the patients that will contribute to the branding. And it is just not doctors, it is every little person who is working for the patient, for the attendant, is what goes as a testimonial and goes as a branding for the hospital and gets the more and more patients. What I wanted to share was on the motivation level, that I work as a volunteer for Heartfulness Institute, and what we have been doing with Asha and Anganwadi workers is that we have been training them with a program called Divya Janani program, and there at a mass scale the training goes for only the soft skills, and we are trying to tell them and teach them that because if anybody has an experience of working with the Anganwadi and Asha workers, they are burdened, and similarly you can see the staff of the hospitals burdened as well, be it doctors, be it sisters, be it nursing order, any level you can take, even the admin staff, the ministerial staff, everybody is burdened and everybody is on a break point or a burnout. So we definitely need an external agency to cater to motivating all of them through maybe, having some retreats, taking them to retreat centers, giving them some motivational events in the hospital premises. And we offer all these things. We do offer all these things, which are not simply by taking their time out and doing some activities, but yes, doing some empathy building exercises, some heartful communication building exercises, leadership techniques, skill building exercises, stuff like that, along with which I would like to stress today. The thing for today, the demand for today is along with a little bit of infusion of spirituality by relaxation and meditation. And this would calm down each and every person. Believe me, trust me, it will calm down the whole environment. It will calm down the patients and the attendants who have such loud voices at times at the patient, doctors and the staff. And the overall environment becomes so serene, so beautiful that the branding automatically happens, the motivation automatically happens, the retention of staff automatically happens. And I feel all the topics that you are catering to today, the only answer is that hire some external forces, external organizations to do this stuff for you people. Do a little bit of happiness exercises during the work time, and I think that will pay off a lot in this journey of yours and ours, of course. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Madhurika. We have run out of time. I'll just have one single word from all the panelists. Sunil, your advice to the HR heads of hospitals and healthcare workers. Quick one sentence.
So, we can actually help all of you in terms of, right from talent supply to talent, entire content, the LMS, the entire building up the entire learning and skilling system for you. So that's absolutely available with us. Please, we'll be glad to help you on that.
Great. Thank you. Sonali, for the non-medical heads and the people who manage facilities and the patient experience, any advice, one single line?
Yes, I would say please invest in building a proper design method based on empathy. Empathy for your employees and empathy for your patients. It's a skill as much as a technical skill. It can be developed, and developing will be the cornerstone of an excellent patient experience.
Thank you. Arundhati, the chief marketing officers of hospitals, hospital chains, big, small, large, your advice, one.
So, large organizations, large hospitals, and the difference is how much people know about you. Make sure that the good work that you are doing is known to the maximum number of people.
Thank you. Sameer, anything from your side?
I will just sum it up. Basically, my colleague Runa has put in the chat box a link for the application, and the reason I'm pointing this out to all of you is that for all these things that we talked about on this panel in this very interesting discussion, you need a structured program to be able to improve from where you are. And for that, you need to measure yourself where you are. You need to then see where you need to go to. And that whole transition from where you are to where you need to go to, you need somebody's help. And that's us. So therefore, if you look at that chat box, I would strongly encourage go and apply over there, because we will be the people who will make you aware of these different experts and other advisors who are out there, and actually make it happen in such a manner that your hospital is able to scale up. So measure, use us, and scale up. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was an honor to be here with all the panelists and all the audience and everyone who attended this. It was a wonderful session. Sorry for exceeding by 4 minutes, but I think we could have gone on for the entire day. It was a great session and I loved it as much as I hope you all loved this. So over to you, Pratyush. Thank you so much, and God bless you all. Keep safe. Keep following the COVID appropriate behavior. We're still inside middle of the pandemic. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Commander Bali. And I would like to thank our esteemed panelist and moderator, Commander Bali, for an enriching and amazing discussion on key challenges. There were a number of takeaways for our hospital leaders, I'm sure about that. And I'm also sure that they would have taken some ideas and they will be implementing in their hospital.